It's time for the Ryan Divish Show / podcast, all brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941. It's located in Tacoma's historic Proctor District. They don't have snow in Tacoma right now, but they do in Havre, Montana. Chalet Bowl has been family-owned and operated for 40 years, delivering top-notch customer service and a unique 12-lane experience. Check out chaletbowl.com to book your next reservation and experience the best in local fun. How much snow today, Ryan Divish, in Havre, Montana?
We haven't gotten any today. It was all yesterday, but about 4 inches or so to go with the couple, 3 or 4 that we'd gotten a few days earlier. So, and I was gone. I was in Seattle all weekend where it was dry and sunny, chilly, but dry and sunny and beautiful.
Great.
And I came back. So I got home last night, shoveled the main driveway, and then the nice balmy 25-mile-per-hour winds blew a bunch of the snow back into the driveway. And I have to do the other driveway today. Plus, as my dad once told me at his house, that snowblower isn't going to run itself. So I got to go check at my dad's.
I love your dad. Can we get your dad on the show sometime? I think I would thoroughly enjoy having Mr. Divish on. It'd be great.
Yeah, he's well, he's mellowed considerably in his old age. Former drill sergeant in the Army, but yeah, it's he has his opinions. Loves Ichiro. He
does have his opinions.
Yeah.
But hey, born and bred in Montana was your dad?
Yeah, born in Havre, Montana.
Wow. Hasn't left.
Yeah, he's like the John Cougar Mellencamp song, gonna die in a small town.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got lots to cover. We got Ichiro Hall of Fame, Felix, the percentage, the retiring of 51 we'll get into, Alex Bregman, Luis Castillo, bullpen arms, all that kind of stuff. Can I ask you a personal question to start off?
Yeah.
Your mom's Japanese.
Yep.
When did she move to Montana? When did she come over?
She was born here in Montana. My grandma came over from Japan when she was just a baby, and then my grandfather, I think he was born in the Ording area. I'm not certain exact date, but they came over, or their grandparents came over. Both were arranged marriages, I believe.
Does the Ichiro Hall of Fame carry significance and weight for your mom?
No, not as much as you would think. My cousins, there are a lot of my cousins that live out there. It was a big deal. Really, my mom's maiden name is Sasaki. And so when Kaz was out here, he followed in the Sasaki roots of liking to pound whiskey and sake. So, and we have no pull with Roki apparently, but no, it was big when Kaz Sasaki was out here. It was a really big deal. I remember when Nomo first came over. Then Ichiro was kind of the phenomenon. Yeah, so it was a big deal to go see him. But my mom doesn't. I mean, my mom, God bless her. She was a cheerleader. She didn't really understand sports. Like when she talks about high school basketball or basketball, it's. Well, I just don't understand. It doesn't look like they're trying very hard. And I'm like, they're 15. They're just not very good.
Okay. What was it like covering him? I mean, you and I were working on the beat at the same time in those early years when he came over. Well, not in 01, but I started in 03. But for you, and those were hard times, right? After 03, those were some hard times, Daddy. But for your perspective, every single day and dealing with him and the circus that was Ichiro, what was it like?
I started end of 06. But watching his routine, the OCD level of that he held everything to, I'd never seen anything like that. I thought, my whole mindset about what professional baseball was like or Major League Baseball was like changed so much when you start covering it. You're there on a daily basis, and you how they get ready for games and what the great players do and this and that. It changed so much. I mean, and I remember in 01, 02, whatever, he'd be in 01, I was bartending. In 02, I was bartending at Red's Bar in Missoula, and we'd have the Mariners game on, and it'd be on, and I'd just stop. I'm watching Ichiro's at bats because it was just something so different than what you were used to seeing. It was always kind of must watch whenever it came on. And then to get there and see him in person and 06, 07, '08, when they were not good, especially '08, like he wasn't fun to deal with at times. '09 too, because like they just weren't, they were bad. He was good. Players didn't understand him. There wasn't a great sense of team spirit in the clubhouse. And like back then, there was so much media still covering him. You had to wait your turn. And like I would get frustrated having to wait. I remember I wanted to write a story on stealing home. You remember when Jacoby Ellsbury stole home? He was playing with the Red Sox. He stole home against the Yankees on Sunday Night Baseball to win a game. And Ichiro had always talked about it. And I wanted to do a story. My son, this is when I was writing the Sunday baseball column for the News Tribune. And like I went up there twice on days where I didn't have to cover to talk to him, and he kind of blew me off. And I got super frustrated. I think I even told Ken Barron, the nicest guy ever, his old interpreter, I go, this is effing Bush League. And I think I was like, and I think Ichiro heard me say it. And I'll never forget it. It's like one of the few times I had an English quote from him in the paper. And he just yelled out, "Ryan." And I look back, I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I will not be stealing home anytime soon." And then and I just remember how angry I was about it. But as, I got a little more mellow, a little less hungover in my days, it was, my respect level grew. And I think for me, the biggest thing is somebody who was not disciplined in anything in his life, seeing somebody that was so disciplined and regimented to a routine stuck with me, and it was something I respected. I mean, I haven't emulated it in any way in my personal life, but, I sit there and tell people about it. But, you go see that, and you see how meticulous he was about it. I mean, like I said, it would make me, if I saw that when I was younger, I think it would make me kind of change how I thought about doing things. I know even for my girlfriend's son, being able to go to spring training and walk around with me and watching how these guys practice, we were able to go to the indoor tunnels and kind of sat in there and watch them practice. And he even watched Ichiro, and he said, look at him stretch and do all this stuff. He goes, he doesn't even play. And I go, yeah, that's how he is. I think that would have changed my thinking a lot more, seeing that more. And so that was probably the biggest thing, is just being around him. And he gave me some unbelievable quotes over the years, that '08 year when he talked about fans booing. He goes, "We should be booed." He goes, if I was watching this team, I'd be in the stands drinking beer and booing this team too, and then stuff like that. It was always interesting covering him. And it's funny now, he'll call me Ryan, and I'm kind of stunned by it, because he was a little deferential. He's just kind of aloof when he played, but now it's a lot different. And so it's different. He'll say some stuff to me in English even. I don't have the relationship that Brad Adam does, where he gets hugs from him every day, but play golf with him and stuff like that. But it's pretty crazy, to see that. I mean, I've told you, we talked about this before, but when I in '09, when Griffey came back, that was just my young life as a kid colliding with my professional life. And then with Griffey, for whatever reason, maybe it's because I'm a smart ass, me and him got along really well. And to this day, when he calls me and it comes up Ken Griffey Jr. on my phone, my friends just are apoplectic. They cannot fathom the concept of all of this.
Yeah.
And so it's that's, Ichiro is still a part of that. I mean, like I said, I just remember watching the '01 year back in, Missoula, because there's a lot of Grizz fans or a lot of Mariners fans there, and it's on. We had it on all the time. I remember I was Sunday Night Baseball. I used to bartend Sunday nights. The game they lost to Cleveland when they were up 10 runs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching that with a bunch of drunken patrons in Reds Bar, because we drink on Sunday nights in Montana.
Well, it's the Lord's Day.
Sunday fun day.
It's the Lord's Day in Montana. He is still to this day at 51 and going into the Hall of Fame. We'll go into the Mariners Hall of Fame, have the jersey retired and all that. He's still a mystery. He still is, and that's what makes him unique. And I don't want confusing's not the right word, but I still think to this day, right? He is no doubt the second greatest player that's ever put on a Mariners uniform. I would think most people would agree with that. He's behind Griffey, but I don't know if he's the most beloved. And I'm not saying that maybe that shouldn't carry any weight with the fans. I mean, maybe fans do, have him elevated over certain players, but there is that. I don't know, other superstars for that team and superstars in the city have always had somewhat of a connection with the fans, and his connection there is one, but it's a distant one. Like he almost wants to keep it at arm's length. And
yeah, and he did that on purpose. Like we don't know hardly anything about his personal life.
No, nothing.
What we see are like when he was carving up that Japanese high school girls baseball team, just punching out like 17, throwing, just pumping 89. But you go ask him about it, he won't talk about it really. Stuff like that. And he doesn't talk about his family. I think I've seen his wife in a picture once. I don't know if I've ever seen her in person. I know I
couldn't tell you. Ryan, I don't think I've ever seen her. Does he have kids?
No, I don't think so. Not that I know of. He has dogs, but he doesn't have kids. And it's like he kept his personal life very private, and he'll only let you see what he wanted to let you see. And it's funny, like, could you imagine, let's say, if he came over now in this day and age of social media, like how that would work, like how he would respond, because there is so much pressure. Like there are people out there, everybody's got a phone. Like one of the things when you were covering him, they didn't allow still cameras in the clubhouse. And I don't,
that's right.
But part of that is because there was some Japanese like tabloid offering money for like naked pictures of him or something. And so they had to really police all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, he had to be very guarded. He didn't live the normal life of a baseball player, partially because like his popularity and the crush of it all was so much. Like I didn't go in 2012 when they went to Japan, but I went when he retired, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before. Like I just couldn't. You went, even he'd been retired. He was still playing, but he wasn't a superstar. Every billboard and every commercial had something about him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because he was coming there. It was because that's what it's like.
And I think that's what makes what he did coming over here the single biggest, I think he's probably still despite Ohtani, has got to be the single biggest attraction of Japan, because you think of, he was the first one to break through in terms of a position player. Mm-hmm. And had he failed, I don't know what that means for the rest of Japanese baseball. I think players eventually come over and all that, but he had to be successful, because the knock would have been what the stereotype was back then. Yes, Japanese players can come over and pitch, but they can't play every day. They can't hit. They won't be able to face major league hitters. They can't play in the field. They're not strong enough. They're not big enough. And he broke through that, and he just crushed it. And I think countless players coming after him did he inspire. The Shohei Ohtanis, all those guys. Sasaki, the kid that's down at Stanford, the Santoro kid that's going to be the next big thing coming out. Just all these guys guaranteed had posters of this guy up on their wall, and there's an immense amount of pressure on him to not only just deliver for himself, deliver for the Mariners, but deliver for an entire country and people.
Well, his influence is not even just Japanese players. Corbin Carroll has a Japanese mom, but like he worshipped Ichiro. When the Mariners had Corbin Carroll in a pre-draft workout, Ichiro was there to talk to him. He got to meet Ichiro, and then that would have been nice if he would have fallen to the Mariners that year. Well, I think that was the year the Mariners got Kirby. I could be wrong, but like Stephen Kwan of the Guardians talks about how much he grew, kid from Oregon, watching Ichiro, like how much he influenced him. Like the guy changed, because also he's 150 pounds. He's 5'11". He allowed people to think at that size, hey, look, no, this guy does it. I can do this. Yeah. And it was very different. How he approached hitting, how he did everything was very different, and really, we haven't, other than Hideki Matsui, who followed shortly thereafter and brought a power quotient to it, aided greatly by playing in Yankee Stadium, I might add. We haven't seen the run of like outstanding Japanese hitters since then. Obviously Ohtani's great, but like, Seiya Suzuki hasn't been what everybody thought. Right. Or, remember, who was the guy the Cubs got? Kosuke Fukudome. There was been a lot of hitters that came over.
Minori Kawasaki.
Yeah, Munenori Kawasaki. Yes, there was him. Still one of the funniest things. Funniest things is when he was talking about he had cramps, and there's a video of it out there, and he eat bananas because monkeys don't cramp. And I was like one of the funniest things ever.
He was a character. Yeah, it was amazing. It's amazing that he falls one vote short. I didn't think he'd be unanimous. I always thought there'd be somebody out there that wasn't going to do it. I thought it'd be like 2 or 3, kind of like Griffey, but there was one person, and for whatever reason had whatever their rationale is. We'll never know because that person will never come.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was doing my ballot, and I didn't take a picture of it like I normally do to send it to Mr. Tibbs and everything. I didn't take a picture of it. And then I'm sitting there, and I was so kind of stressed about voting for Felix and thinking about it.
Sure.
I'm going to write the column, so that what if I just forgot to check his name? What if I'm the guy, but it's really I just forgot because I was doing this, and this, obviously with Ichiro, it was a no-brainer, and I voted for CC and Billy Wagner. I voted for Billy Wagner, I think almost every year he's been eligible. So I'm getting those guys down. And then, Carlos Beltran, Abreu, I knew Felix was, because the Felix thing, you're going to be people are going to, oh, you're a homer, you cover, this and that, whatever. So I'm sitting there thinking about all that, and then you're thinking, and then my raging ADD,
I guarantee I'm putting him down. I know I'm going to put him down. Yeah.
Did I take my Adderall? Did I do this right? But I don't have a picture of it.
God, what if that's the case for the person who left him off, that he just forgot? He's I know Ichiro's going to be on there, but let me get these other guys, and then I'll send it, and then he forgets.
Yeah, and that's your biggest fear. And so I'm with my luck, it'll probably be me, and then my mom's home nation will be coming after me.
God, that would just be terrible if that were the case.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the case, or maybe somebody was playing the ballot game, or you wanted to vote for 10 to make sure somebody stayed on, so you didn't want to vote. But I was looking at a lot of the tracking. A lot of people didn't vote for all 10, so it's different. And I think last year I only voted for 9. Usually I vote for 10. So that's my biggest fear right now. The ballots will be released, I believe.
But you took the picture, didn't you?
No, I forgot to take the picture this year, so I don't know.
You forgot to take the picture. I thought you said you did. So it could be you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hope it's you. I just, for the love of God, I hope it's you, so we can just kill you.
Yeah, you're like your boy Softy. What, he just lives in the world of Schadenfreude because his teams aren't good, so he only cares about the other teams.
God, that would be so good. Ryan Divish, he covered him. He left him off. Oh, that would be. Actually, no, I don't wish that on you. I really, honestly, I don't want the person revealed, because that person is just gonna get, dragged.
To me, I don't know that the unanimous thing holds that much weight, since Babe Ruth wasn't actually unanimous. So
I know, but it would have been cool for the first position player to ever do it was a Mariner.
Yeah, well, it should have been how many years ago when Griffey went in? 3 people didn't vote for Griffey.
I know, just
3. He has 600 home runs.
Hey man, we don't need to debate. We don't need to go over his stats. All right, so get why Felix. I think I'm going to assume many people have read your column, but just give us the Cliff Notes. Why did you end up voting for Felix?
There's a bit of sentimentality there. And I wanted to make sure I was going to vote for him if for no other reason that he didn't get the Johan Santana treatment, where you just get pulled off they didn't get pulled off the ballot so quickly. That he would. I wanted to make sure he was on the ballot. And I think a lot of people think that. If you look at Chris Russo always says you have to be one of the most dominant players at your position for a period of 10 years. Mm-hmm. Well, I looked at it starting with his debut through was it 16? Which is 9.5 seasons. It was him, Justin Verlander, and CC Sabathia as the 3 best pitchers, and their numbers are pretty pretty equal. And throughout those times, he played on some of the worst teams.
Right.
I mean, and so, the win quotient or the win total, I mean, that's just a counting stat. We've kind of debunked wins as being a measurement, but some voters still use it. But if you look at innings pitched, and strikeouts, and all those other things, he's right there. It's those three guys, and it's nobody else. And I thought, you know what, for being that dominant that long and seeing it every day and seeing that, like, maybe what he did isn't truly appreciated, I felt like, I could vote for him. And I feel like, down the road, because I'm also looking at other guys that are in there. Like Felix is cursed by longevity. He didn't have as long of a career, and largely some of that is his own fault for not conditioning maybe the way he was, or not adapting.
Especially at the end. I mean, that's on him. Yeah.
But I mean, they also just muled him for the first, how, like, the thinking with pitchers is different. Could they have kept him more healthy with better thinking? The way this coaching staff operates in this pitching, would they have been better? Like, the thinking now, like the amount of innings he threw, and sometimes meaningless games, just because he didn't want to come out, and they were gonna, like, that's just, it's crazy. I mean, he threw so much, and Jack Morris is in the Hall of Fame. And yes, he had some great postseason starts, but his career is all about longevity and staying in. The 300 wins.
And I think the postseason plays a part.
Killed him. Yeah, killed him. Like, it's Don Sutton, who stayed and pitched for 30-some seasons. I mean, if Felix really, I don't know if he would have been able to do it, but let's say he pitches 3 more seasons and ekes out a 9 wins here, or, gets on a decent team. Like, he was going to make that Braves rotation that one year. So he gets 10 wins, like, what does that make him any better just because you added to the overall totals?
Right.
Or do you look at who he was for how long? Honestly, like, the same thing is, like, during that span, if the Mariners wanted to get to the playoffs, or if you had to bet your paycheck on a game for, you had to go out and pick a starting pitcher to start a game because your paycheck is on the line for any team. I mean, like, I'm picking Felix probably over CC, because CC gave up a lot of hits. And, like, when Felix was right, he shut you down.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't get anything. Verlander the same. CC was there was a stretch where he was really dynamic when he was with the Brewers and such, but, like, his was about longevity as well, that he was this big horse that could pitch forever, like, and it's not a reasonable argument, but Felix really was, his Hall of Fame career was sidetracked a little bit. Yes, by his own, like, lack of understanding of what he needed to do to be good later in his career, but also because he was loyal to an organization that did nothing to really help him, to surround him like they promised. I mean, when they got Cano and Cruz, and that was kind of when Felix started to trend down a little bit. But I mean, he probably should have another Cy Young. I mean, you can, you look at the numbers, he probably should have a Cy Young over Kluber that season. And, I just think I have no problem voting for him, because there are guys on the margin. It's like Todd Helton, like, he put up a lot of numbers, but you can pick it apart as much as you want. And so I just think, like, for the better part of 9 seasons, he was one of the 2 or 3 most dominant pitchers in baseball.
Yeah. All right, back to Ichiro for just a quick second. August 9th, they're going to retire his number 51. Now, I've thought about this for a long, long time, probably like a lot of Mariner fans. What would they do with 51? Because it's owned by 2 great players that put on a Mariner uniform. And I just thought that they would retire together. Like, how would they do it? Now, it doesn't seem like they're going to retire together. Maybe they could do it later for Randy Johnson. But when you retire 51, don't both of them own the number? Like, what would you do with that?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, that's one thing too. Like, Randy is so sensitive about stuff. Like,
sure.
I'm sure it bothers him, but at the same time, he isn't really as much of a part of this organization as he is with the Diamondbacks.
Right.
And he went in with the Diamondbacks hat. And
I do want to add, though, because there's a lot of it. Well, he chose the Diamondbacks. He didn't necessarily choose the Diamondbacks hat. There was a discussion, because people, this, but for people who don't, it's a conversation that happens with the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah. They don't just let you say, I want to go in with this team. They're part of the conversation. They steer you towards the team that you should go in as. And it was, I mean, I read a bunch about it. It was a debate for Randy what to do. The Hall of Fame pushed him, and they agreed that, listen, you won 4 of your 5 Cy Youngs there. You won a World Series there. You should go in as a Diamondback. And he said, okay. But it's not like he said, I'm going to go in as a Diamondback and that's it. Or because if that's the case, Wade Boggs would have went in as a Tampa Bay Ray because the Rays were going to pay him like $10 million to go in as a Tampa Bay Ray. And the Hall of Fame stepped in and said, no, you're going in as a Red Sox.
Yeah.
Because that's where you did your most damage. But to the point, and again, he has a say in it. And I understand what he did for the Diamondbacks. I'm not going to argue that. But, I mean, it's not like he was chopped liver with the Mariners. He's, arguably the best pitcher in the franchise history.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, like, for a stretch. I mean, I would still probably take Felix because he was there longer.
Yeah.
But, I just don't know that I'm sure it means something to Randy because, like I said, he can be sensitive about stuff. But at the same time, I also don't think that he was, like, super regrettable about the Diamondbacks thing. I think he understood it. So, I mean, they can do it at a later date. Something they probably want to talk to Randy about. Maybe they do something we don't know about. But, Randy's been back a couple times and he's been really cordial. I mean, that dude can talk when he wants to. But
he doesn't have the connection like the other guys do.
No, it just isn't that way, And I mean, I think that's part of it. Is like he just doesn't have that connection to the organization anymore. And the connection that he did have started to wane because he just wasn't around as years go by and stuff. Right. Griffey's still around, Edgar's still around, even Dan Wilson's still around, obviously, Alvin Davis. Like that connection is still there because there's still viable parts of the organization or, do things for the organization. Randy isn't like that. He does his own thing. And I think that's part of it as well.
All right. A couple of quick things. Alex Bregman, it sounds like they're waiting on wherever Bregman goes to make a decision at third base. What do we know? What's going on? What's the latest with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's with Bregman and Pete Alonso, they're kind of waiting because I think other teams or possible trades could open up in that way. But, who knows? I mean, if I'm Bregman, I want to get this done here in the next week or so. Same with Alonso, because you don't want to arrive at spring training the day before and figure it out. I mean, I don't think with those two guys, they're sitting there working out anyways. They're doing their own thing, but I would think that they would want to get this kind of taken care of in the next week or two, and then maybe the Mariners will see some movement. We might not. Who knows? I mean, it's the Poto, and obviously it was because of the lockout the 1 year, but I mean. Winker and Suarez arrived the day that, the first workout or whatever it was.
Right,
it wasn't so, I mean, those trades can happen as well. There's some fringe guys that the Mariners could sign that I don't think are that reliant on where Bregman or Alonso go, but they like Justin Turner. I think Justin Turner's waiting to see where Pete Alonso goes because he wants to go somewhere where he can win or it's on the West Coast, whatever. There's a lot of different things that are out there. So we're kind of stuck waiting. But I mean, unless it's a trade, and they move Castillo or something, I'm just not expecting a ton of an overwhelming a move that's going to wow anybody.
Sure. Castillo report to the team February 12th.
Yeah. I mean, as far as he knows, he's still with the Mariners. I mean, and I'm sure they probably, when they talk to him about who he would actually waive his no trade clause for and stuff, they probably just say look, we're not necessarily looking to deal you. We're just going to listen to offers because there's a lot out there and, this is where we're at. I think they all kind of know it's a business and loyalty is pretty fickle. So.
Hey, last thing for you. One thing we talked about the offense, but real quickly, I mean, they have a problem in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they do. I mean, because they don't. Because I think on another podcast radio station, like Gregory Santos.
Cheater.
I know Gregory Santos is an idea. He's not a pitcher. He's an idea of what he could be. Because he hadn't thrown. And then Brash is coming back off of modified Tommy John surgery. There's going to be limitations on what he can and can't do. Well, then those were, your two expected leverage arms from last year that didn't really pitch. they're not going to be full go by the beginning of the season, or even maybe 2 or 3 months into the season. You don't know kind of what they're going to be. I mean, Santos is supposed to be healthy, but we don't have any evidence that he could stay healthy. So who are your leverage guys again? That's what hurt them last year. Yeah. Gabe Spire wasn't Gabe Spire. He struggled. You know, they've had to force Colin Snyder into a role, and he did okay. But I mean, like, Austin Voth was one of their leverage guys last year. And who do they have now? Like, Troy Taylor's a nice pitcher, and he had a nice little rookie season. He could take a step up. You know, they've got some guys they claimed off waivers that throw hard and have some potential, but there isn't like any one guy that is like, okay, yeah, we went out and got this guy, and he's going to step in and pitch the 7th, you know, and help until Brash is healthy or whatever. They don't have that. Mm-hmm. They're having to piece it together because when you don't have that much money, can't spend it on relievers. You got to figure them out. You got to hope for the Justin Topa or the 1 year of Drew Steckenrider or something like that. You know, that's how they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to piece it together, trust their pitching guys, and like maybe there are some guys in the minor leagues that can help them. You know, Brandon Garcia, one of their top prospects. Like, there's talk that he may be a lefty out of the bullpen instead. You know, they may use him that way. I just think that their holes on this team are pretty significant. Like, I don't think the bullpen is great. It could be, but you never know. And bullpens are fickle, and the lineup has holes. I mean, and you know, that's just kind of where they're at. You know, like right now, it's Dylan Moore and Ryan Bliss probably starting in the infield along with the combo of Solano and Raley. And
love it. God, I love JP. It. I'm all in. I am so all in. I'm so all in for this year. You are the best. The Ryan Divish Show, the Ryan Divish Podcast Experience, all brought to you by Chalet Bowl. Go book your next reservation, chaletbowl.com. And of course, you can find all this episode up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe. When you're Apple, Spotify, your podcast platforms, please rate 5 stars and write a glowing review. All right, you're the best. Have fun shoveling snow. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good.